suddenly moving from having a steady salary to having nothing, right, was very, very scary. And it wasn't easy, really, because it came as a shock to me. I wasn't prepared for it.
Welcome to the FTC podcast, and I'm Varsha, the host today for this conversation with Mavis. And Mavis is someone who has spent about 17 years in corporate learning and development, working with large organizations like Accenture, ICICI, Deloitte, and Wipro, before founding her own learning and development consultancy, Powerskillz. She's not just someone as an entrepreneur, but she's also an author of a book that hit number one in two Amazon categories, The Manager Who Never Got the Memo. So welcome, Mavis, and I'm so excited to look forward to have this conversation with you to know more about this journey of how you have transitioned from a corporate life to becoming an independent person and also an author.
Well, thank you so much, Varsha. And in fact, I'm equally excited to be here and enthusiastic. So it's great. And especially having this podcast with you is a pleasure for me as well, because you're not only someone who's been a team member with me in the FTC cohort, but now a dear friend as well. So it's really nice to be here. Thank you.
Right. I'm so excited that I just cannot, stop myself in asking to know more about your life story. And that brings me to a question like when I read through your profile and knowing you a bit more since we've been on the cohort, you moved through organizations like Wipro BPO, Internet, OSP Labs, and Milestones Education before starting Powerskillz on your own. So, was there any specific moment in a training room or at any point in time in your career that made you to decide to build something independent, which you're pursuing right now?
Well, to be honest, Varsha, there wasn't any specific moment, I would say, that made me think that I need to move away from working on a job. But yes, over the years, since I've worked with so many different companies, right, and there has been a pattern, all right. So there were many moments, in fact, when I felt that sometimes the content was not something that I fully believed in. Then there were times when I felt that the delivery styles could have been different. And as much as I said that, I really couldn't change much there, right? Because it was the management and the company that decides these things, right? So it wasn't much in my hands. And that's why after roughly about 17 plus years of leading training and managing training and trainers and delivering training myself, I decided that the only way that I can deliver my vision is if I build it myself. And that's really how Powerskillz was born.
Wow, that's inspiring. And I can see the entire spectrum of the L&D journey you've been through must have been really fascinating. And that's where you have found areas where you can bring your own style and what you want to, bring that as a vision. And I'm sure that's coming live with Powerskillz.
Yes, absolutely.
Uh, so this brings me to yet another, question, which is you stepped away from the structure and stability of a corporate role to build Powerskillz independently. And I'm sure it would not have been easy because it's always a risk of coming back from a comfortable, a corporate life. So
True.
what did that risk cost you personally, and what did it give back? What has been your journey so far?
Yes, you are right in saying that. Of course, it is a big risk, right, to step away from the stability of having that fixed paycheck coming to you every month and the security that comes with being in a job with a well-working organization. So yes, it was a risk, and especially the financial aspect is what is the biggest hit that you take. And what had happened, in fact, is in the earlier months of when I started out on my own, so suddenly moving from having a steady salary to having nothing, right, was very, very scary. And it wasn't easy really because it came as a shock to me. I wasn't prepared for it.
Mm.
But yes, if I look at it back at it today, of course, there's been a lot of gains also. And the biggest gain I see out of it is that now I have the peace of mind because I have complete ownership over the content, over the delivery, and even it made me launch my own framework called the Game Framework, which is my proprietary framework that I now use for different leadership training programs. So I think that's been the biggest one. Yeah.
Wow, and I'm picking up the word peace.
Mhm.
How much importance that would play, in a dynamic life that you would have lived in the corporate world, versus
Right.
bringing back to your own sense of alignment to what you love to do.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Yes. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely. I think peace is very important, and especially in today's fast-paced world that we talk about, right? So having that peace when you're doing something or feeling that you completely believe and stand by something is something which is very important to me as a person. And that's why now that I get to do it and I get to create customized programs for each and every client, so that's something which makes me feel very good about being an entrepreneur. So despite all the risks that come with it.
I can totally relate that what you're saying, Mavis. But could you also share a little more about the game framework that you were talking about, which is something that you have
Right,
curated or
that's right.
developed?
That's right. So the game framework that I have developed is what we call the GAME, stands for Gamified Application for Managerial Excellence. And this is a program that I have specifically designed for first-time managers. And this draws from two things actually. My own experiences when I moved from being just a contributor individually to becoming a manager and handling a team that was just given to me. So I had a lot of challenges which I really had to go about on my own, figuring how to do it, right? So based on my own experiences and based on the experiences of all the leaders that I've trained over the years at all levels. So I've done a lot of first-time managers and middle managers and senior level manager training. So I drew out on all those experiences and created this framework. So it's a 90-day leadership development program that I've done because I don't believe that behavior change can happen in a day or 2 day training program, right? Those workshops can, of course, bring about the awareness. But if you really want to drive that behavior change, it needs some time, and you have to keep monitoring people over that time, giving them that time and space. So that's how I have this framework in which I take them through all the common challenges that first time managers face.
Wow. Since it's coming through your own lived experiences, and I'm sure, whoever is going to take this up will find a lot more value add. And it's it's a transition from an individual contributor to becoming a manager itself is a whole different set of uh, ecosystem to mindset to attracting different challenges and situations.
Right,
Uh,
absolutely.
while I've heard a little more about how we have transitioned from being a corporate uh, professional and then moving now to becoming an entrepreneur, you have also recently become an author. So I'm a little more curious now to know about your journey of writing this book. So let's dive a little more into this conversation of the book journey.
Sure, sure. Right.
So the manager who never got the memo tells the first time manager a story through a fictional character,
Mhm.
which you mentioned is Shaurya Mathur,
Right.
across 12 chapters instead of a straight how to guide. Why did you choose to take this style of writing a book of fictional?
Okay, right. Why fiction? Well, as a person, I've always leaned more towards fiction books
Mm,
rather than framework heavy. I find those kind of books a little dry and boring, right? So they are, of course, helpful, no doubt, but as a person, I've leaned more towards fictional stuff. And what I feel is there are a lot of leadership framework books out there, which are textbook kind of books, right? But the point is, how much of it can people, after reading that, how much of it can they really take back to their workplaces and start using it from day one? Okay, and that's the reason I thought I'll write a book for people like me who would rather prefer something which reads like a story. And that's why that thought came of writing a narrative leadership book. And yeah, so, like you said, yes, the name of the main character in this is Shaurya Mathur. And he's a guy, an individual who was a great individual contributor, and that's why he gets promoted to becoming a manager. But he's told that he's promoted, but he's not given any kind of a roadmap how to proceed as a manager. And that's why I've written 12 chapters, which are essentially 12 challenges that commonly first-time managers go through. So in each chapter, it talks about one challenge. It talks about how he first understands and starts getting aware, okay, this is what happened, and then how he navigates and overcomes that particular problem. And also at the end of every chapter, I've kept a part for reflection for a person, so that, you know, the reader who's reading it also is living through that situation, and then at the end of it making a decision, just like Shaurya has to make in the book, that they also can actually make those decisions. And I feel it will help them take it back to their real workplace settings and use it immediately.
Superb. As you were sharing, to me, it feels like this is more of one, it's relatable because you become the character there, right?
Right.
And you would see yourself landing in those moments or, you know, situations. And then you have also helped somebody to reflect and also apply. So I think that's very powerful way somebody would have to pick up this book, especially the first time managers, and I'm sure they really find a lot of value add on this. Really appreciate the style of, you know, writing a book.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Varsha. It really means a lot, because yes, that was the objective behind writing it, and that they should find it relatable and that I can immediately use it also. You know, it should be practical enough for people to feel that they can use it right away.
Okay. So writing a book has never been easy for anybody because there's a lot of thought process need to be involved, right? And you've written 12 chapters, 12 different challenges that you've been talking about that you just mentioned. Now, what was the hardest chapter to write?
Okay, right. So, of course, yes, it's not easy, and especially when you're doing it for the first time. Though I've been thinking of writing a book for a really long time, but you know, this was the time that I actually did it. And so I think telling you which was the easiest chapter to write might be a little challenging, in fact. But the hardest chapter is very easy for me to say, because the hardest chapter was the one where Shaurya has to talk to one of his team members about their performance. Okay, and the reason why this was hard to write, you believe it or not, is because I have actually lived through that situation. All right, and that's why, how do I put it across in a way where it doesn't sound, you know, like so it was very challenging in that aspect because I've lived through it. So what really happened was, when I was at Wipro, I had one of my team members who was actually a very good friend of mine. And when I got promoted to becoming her manager, right, that's when I realized that she was not great with keeping timelines as far as reports are concerned.
Okay.
Right. So she hated reports basically. And yes, she loved training, and she would get into all her training classes on time and get everything done. But it was the reporting at the end of each batch, at the end of each day, the attendance was something that she never really liked doing, and she would keep pushing them back. And I'm sure, Varsha, being a trainer yourself, you know that reporting is also a very critical part of
It's a mundane task, but it's a critical task.
It's a critical task of a trainer's life, and you can't avoid it, right?
Correct.
And yet, so I used to keep avoiding that conversation with her because I didn't want to damage the relationship, and I kept saying that, okay, let me give her time, I'm sure she'll get around to it. But, and this is what exactly happens with most managers. What we think as managers is that when I give my people time, or if I'm keeping quiet, where even when I see there are problems or issues, they will automatically somehow disappear. But that doesn't really happen. And what we think is kindness through our silence is actually damaging the relationship even more, right? And then it gets to a point where it snowballs into a very big problem. So that was the one that was really difficult, because it kind of brought back all those memories and I was reliving it at that time. Yes.
This is one of the critical conversations as well. Just the
True,
moment
true,
where you
very.
get promoted and you need to really
Right.
talk about what went well, what could have been better,
True.
and you've already built a very good relationship. Now, then to come across as very
Yeah,
constructive, something that can be helpful, can really
right.
be something very tough.
Hmm.
Uh, but thank you for sharing that, Mavis, and I'm sure this piece will all managers can relate, and it will be helpful for those who are reading this.
Right, right. I hope so. Yes. I mean, I've got great responses so far from the people who have read it. So they felt, like you said, a lot of them came up to me or wrote feedback for me saying that they found it very practical, very relatable, and they could just see themselves in Shaurya's situation, and they've been there many times. So, yes.
Super. Uh, now, another question that is something that I would like to know is the book hit number one in its category, early on.
Right.
So, but however, who is this book deliberately not written for?
Right, I like the question, Varsha. Yes, of course, people would like to know. I mean, you usually ask whether who it's written for, but yes, not written for. So, yes, of course, this is not one of those leadership books which is a one size fits all kind of a book, right? It is specifically written for first time managers, the ones who have just transitioned from being a contributor, a good individual contributor, to now they are transitioning to becoming a leader, right? It is for those kind of people, and it's definitely not for those people who are at middle management levels or senior levels, who are looking for more of advanced strategies, those checklists, the frameworks that help them to get to the next level. So such people might not really feel that they are finding any additional value in this book. Yes.
I hope this helps for people, picking up before
Yes.
picking up the book to get more clarity whether is it the right choice for me
True,
to read
true.
through
Yes,
or not.
absolutely. Yes.
Really helps. Maybe since we've been a part of a cohort as well, right now it was
Mm-hmm.
really interesting to know more about your book journey, but we've also been traveling through yet another journey of learning for ourselves through
Right.
FTC, right? And it's been almost now close to about 2 months. Uh, let's get into something more about to understand how this journey has been for you.
Okay.
And here is where I've thought something to know more from you as well about the
Okay.
journey.
Right, right, sure.
Um, and we also have a fantastic platform of school that we use, right, where we share our thoughts, contribute our learning, support each other, right. And I've been seeing you always on the top five, but right now you're on currently on the number one on the FTC leaderboard this week, and number two over the last 30 days.
Right.
uh, Phenomenal, right? Keeping up that space and contributing and sharing. Now, what's different about you that you show up as a trainer now compared to when you started the cohort?
Okay, let me give you a secret here, Varsha. Now, honestly, I wasn't even aware of the FTC leaderboard when we started out on the school app, right? So I had not even seen that section and I wasn't aware for the first few weeks about it. So we were just figuring it out and trying to understand. So that was never the goal that I wanted to be there in the top 10 or the top 5. Okay, but yes, of course, I did like sharing, and just like I was reading a lot of stuff put in by our peers, so I used to also make it a point to share. But yes, FTC has definitely changed my life in a lot of ways in the 2 months, and still it's not over. So I'm looking forward to a lot more learning. But some of the things, if I have to point out in how I'm showing up as a trainer differently now, one would be that in my way of facilitation. All right, so I try, consciously now, I'm trying to use lesser number of slides. I've restricted the number of slides I put in every session that I have, and I try to make it more of a facilitated session where I have the participants giving me, asking those questions and trying to generate the insights from them. And also I try to change my roles as a facilitator from what I've learned in the cohort. So I'm trying to use all those different roles of a facilitator in my sessions. So these are two things that have really, stood out for me from whatever we've gone through so far. So yeah, basically FTC has helped me stop looking at it more like a trainer and now looking at it more like a facilitator and someone who tries to change people and not just leave them with thoughts in the room.
Oh, that's again something very interesting to know, that a transition from being a trainer where you share more versus now you receive more, right?
Right, right.
Them to think more and create that difference. And I'm sure this would also shift in the kind of conversations that you have with your participants.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely. It's made a lot of a difference. Suddenly you see people opening up a lot more because when you ask the right kind of questions in the room, it just lets all kinds of people. So the ones who are a little reserved, quiet, they also open up once they feel that psychological safety in the room. So, yes.
So I'm picking up some good two, three important things of what you've shared about the journey so far. One, trainer to a facilitator. Second, power of questions that brings
Yes.
people to share more, reflect more, right? And number three, creating that environment where
Right.
people feel safe to express.
Right.
Very, very critical for a facilitator, because we're someone who appear very new to them, and it's just a small period of time that we would invest
Right.
in it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic to hear all this from you, Mavis.
Thank you.
uh, let's take this conversation a little more further, and
Sure.
in terms of, has FTC changed how confidently you pitch yourself, your book, or power skills to a corporate client?
Yes, actually, it definitely has. So, before when I used to introduce myself when I go for a client meeting or to anyone for that matter, or even on my social media accounts, I would just call myself a corporate trainer, right? But after we've been through brand positioning, the session on that, and after having understood the importance of building your brand, it has completely changed the self that changed the way that I've been pitching myself. So now when I enter into client meetings, I'm a lot more confident. And the way that I introduce myself is I say that I specialize in first time manager development and I help managers with real behavior change within 90 days. So it has made yes, it's a complete change. And even on my social media accounts, it's reflected now in the way that I present myself and my brand. Yes.
Wow. So of course, yeah, the way you talk about yourself can bring a lot of shift, not just for the people who are listening, that could be the client or anybody, as you said, people connecting in your network, but
Right.
also within ourselves. And I can exactly see, even when you were just expressing how you have changed your positioning statement, I can see that getting reflected.
Right. Absolutely.
Um, but what's one concrete thing, a client conversation or a piece of visibility or a connection that came directly out of this cohort?
So the thing is, as of now, in fact, we are still in the process of unfolding a lot of learnings, right? So through this, but I think if I had to look at one recent breakthrough that has happened, it would be the DISC assessment session that we just went through in the last week. So that gave me a lot of awareness in terms of how we can understand people better. And also it helped me correlate this to what I'm doing with first time managers because I feel it's a very important thing that I can help first time managers with so that they can not only understand their own behavioral patterns
Right.
and their strengths, but then they can also understand, observe, and understand their team members. And once they do that, they would know exactly how to work with each team member, and that would bring a win-win situation for for them and the teams and the organization as a whole. So I'm just looking forward. I haven't yet deployed it with any clients, but I'm looking forward to incorporating it within my GRAIN framework and
Okay.
having a version 2.0 releasing shortly, maybe. Yes.
Oh wow, I'm so looking forward to that. Miss,
Yes,
how
I'll keep you posted about it. I will definitely keep you
yeah, yeah,
posted.
please do that. But I'm also, the way kind of connecting the
Hmm.
disc to, your first time manager program. Uh,
Right.
because I feel it's all about end of the day, it's behaviors of the workplace matters, right? How do you
Right.
show
Yes.
up? Yeah. And I think that's what exactly disc is. And as a manager, unless and until you show up in a way that you want your team to be, then how do you expect your team to be with you, right? So
Yes,
therefore, I
absolutely.
think integrating these two can really become much more value added. Sometimes I think
Right.
can be also a game changer for you apart from your
True,
team.
true. Yeah, I think you used the right word there, Varsha. It is a game changer because, of course, we were only working, randomly on the skills currently, my framework, while they are some of the skills that based on research and finding out what usually first-time managers are lacking in terms of, when they just start out. But of course, understanding each person's behavioral strengths so we can go ahead and mold it according to their strengths. So I think that makes it a lot more easier for them to connect and take it forward. Yes.
Super. Um, since you've been in this journey of the FTC, being an entrepreneur and an author, curious to know what's your goal for the next 12 months for the book, for Powerskillz, and also for yourself as a facilitator.
Okay. For the next 12 months, let's see. Well,
Is that
for
a long-term goal for you, or I don't know, which is
Right, while I have been, yes, I have kept a few long-term goals and short-term goals, but yes, if I have to look at power skills, so for me, it is right now to focus on my pipeline and make sure that I can convert as many leads into long-term B2B clients who
right?
are going through the entire 90-day game training program rather
Okay.
than just one day leadership workshops. All right. And apart from that, what I'm also looking at starting, which I haven't yet, but is to build my B2C brand. And in that, I'm looking to work with the younger corporate trainers who are just entering into the field, and especially those who would be interested in moving away from just doing the regular, traditional, slide driven workshops and moving more into experiential, game based
Okay.
learning. Yes, so that's what I'm just going to be launching also shortly in terms of my B2C brand. So, yes, that's while they are two different audiences, but the mission is the same one clear mission to impart the training.
Super. Uh, and then I think it's important as an entrepreneur to also have two branches of B2C and B2B towards your growth,
Right.
uh, right? But
Yes,
I
I
feel,
do think so.
yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
sorry.
Yes, absolutely. I think, as a entrepreneur, it is important to diversify and not just stay, and especially when you feel that you have it in you. I mean, for me, training has always been something I've been very passionate about. It's not just a job, but it's something I've truly believed in. And so if I feel that I have the knowledge over the years that I can impart to both clients as B2B and B2C, then why not do it? Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Mavis, this has helped me to understand one side of your entire life story in a short version, and then of course the FTC cohort. There's something that I would now want to where we had some long conversations in terms of, but now I want to make it really quick and fast. And
Okay.
here it could be a surprise for you, but I don't know. I've also spoken with
Okay.
you as well that it's going to be quick and fast. So let's do a rapid fire.
Oh
Uh,
my, that's a lot of pressure. But yes, okay, let's go for it.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Uh,
All right.
so let's keep it to one word or a one sentence max.
As trainers, that's very difficult, but I'm going to try my best. Okay, let's go for it. Come on.
So, favorite book that isn't your own?
5 Point Someone by Chetan Bhagat. Yes.
Oh, wow. That was even my first book.
Oh, okay. We could talk about this more. Yes, actually, yeah. That's one book because I've always believed in not following the traditional path. So that book was really inspiring also to help me live out life in the way I wanted to.
Super. Uh, Worst piece of an advice you ever got as a facilitator?
Wow. There's been a lot of it, but I would say, I think lately one that was, that someone told me that slides, the more amount of slides you have, that builds your credibility. And I don't believe in that. So I think that would be the one.
Cool. Uh, One word for your life right now.
Pumped and pumped. Yes, ready to go.
Interesting. Coffee or chai before a workshop?
Oh, chai lover.
Super. One thing you would tell your Repro era self?
Well, it's just getting better from here. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now it's a typical trainer or a facilitator question. Yeah.
Okay.
Your go-to icebreaker game, just the name.
I think we all have one of that, right? So for me, it's not the traditional two truths and a lie, I think, which most trainers would say possibly. But for me, it's been human bingo. I just find it very interesting and fascinating to see the energy and understand people in the room. Yeah, a little bit.
That was something that even I had in my mind.
Oh, okay. Great minds think alike.
All right. Mavis, I think, I've got to understand quite a little more about you, also on the fun side of, some parts of it. Yeah. And now I would want to take it to the audience who are also listening to this a little more, who have been listening to this conversation. If someone was listening to, and has a book idea or a training idea, they have been sitting it on, what's one thing that you would tell them to do this week?
Right. So I can completely relate with this question because I was sitting on my book idea and procrastinating it for years. Okay, like I shared earlier. So I had the idea in my mind, but I was just not sure about starting and how it would be received and thinking, overthinking it, I think really. So my point would be to anyone who's sitting with that idea would be that just go for it. Just begin. Write the first paragraph, right? That's really just taking that first step is what is difficult. And the minute you get that first paragraph or the first page out of your mind and it's actually there in front of you, that's when it stops staying a dream and becomes a reality. Okay, and I really have to thank Dr. Hashim Adil from the FTC group for that because he was the one who helped me move that dream to a reality. And yes, so that's what my advice would be to everyone, that just go for it. I know it's the Nike tagline, but that's really what I would say. Just do it.
Yeah, easier said than done, right? I mean,
yes,
people would
absolutely.
find it, but I think, someone who's just sitting on with it should just get started. And as you said, Dr. Hashim has been someone who has helped so many of us in the cohort and the entire community to become authors.
True.
All right. Now that if people want to reach out to you, Mavis, right, how do you want them to connect with you? Where can they find you? About also your book, which are the platforms where they can look up to, and also on Powerskillz. Something that you want that people can easily reach out to you.
Okay, great. Right. So for me, I mean, I'm there on LinkedIn, the professional platform that everybody uses. So if you just type Mavis Pereira, it's very unique that way, my name, and you can just type it in the search bar and I'm sure you'll reach me. And for my website, for my brand Powerskillz, the company, it is www.powerskillz.com. That's Powerskillz with a Z, the zing that I bring to it. Right. And yes, and also, so that's really how you can get to me through these different portals. And I'm also there on Google Powerskillz. If you just type it in the Google search bar, also you would get to the website. Yes.
Okay, I think two key platforms are already there for people to reach out to you easily.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Mavis, I think this was a fantastic conversation, and I'm also taking it back some inspiration from this conversation, especially on writing the book, where it is sitting on my head, and I need to just bring it to the reality, and hopefully I'll do that soon. Just taking your advice and your piece of thoughts on that. So thank you so much, Mavis, for joining for this conversation today. It was truly a pleasure to have this with you today, and yeah.
Thank you. Thank you again, Varsha. And you've been a great host, and it's been a pleasure talking to you and, just sharing other stories also. I think it's just been great. So thank you for having me and, getting this podcast done. So yes, it's been a pleasure.
I'm wishing you all the very best, Mavis, to impact more and more lives, more organizations where you can add value through Powerskillz.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and wishing you the best in all that you do. Thanks very much, Varsha. Bye-bye.